So checkpoint 24, first question. It says the following box plot shows the age for randomly selecting students at two different colleges. And we want to know which statement best compares these two colleges. So it looks like the colleges are talking about that, well, not the colleges, but the answer choices are asking which one is more varied than the other. So if I look at the range of college A, the range at college A is from 21 to 27. And then the range from college B is 21 to 29, right? So right off the bat, does one have a larger range than the other? Yes, B has a bigger range, perfect. And if I look at the boxes inside, like the actual boxes, this one goes from 23 to 26 and 23 to 26. So is my IQR the same, right, when I do that subtraction? IQR is like the range of my box. Yes, they are the same as well. So when we are asking which statement best compares these two, do you guys think that B is more varied, or do you think that they are equally varied? I would say that they are equally varied because the IQRs are the same as well. So for this one, I just checked it. This one, it's actually college B is more varied because the range is greater. So this helps solidify it in my mind. When you are given a box plot and you're asked about variation, go off of the range first. If the range is the same, then go off your IQR. So range first for variation with box plots, and then go off of your IQR. So Chelsea, you were correct. Do you want to teach this? I'll take a break. No? All right. Well, I mean, I figured I'd offer. Okay. Next question is box plots with event A and event B. So let me know when you guys are ready. Okay. So we have these two box plots, and they show the number of attendees in two different reoccurring events for each month for a random year. We want to know which statement best compares these two events. So we're again asking about variability. So let's check the ranges. So the range for event A goes from 10 to 20. So if I were to subtract 20 minus 10, what is my range for event A? So 20 minus 10. So range for event A is going to be 10. And then if I look at event B goes from 18 to 8. So if I do range for event B, 18 to 8, what would be my range for event B? Range for event B should also be 10, right? 18 minus 8 would give me 10. So my range for both of these is the same. Let's check my IQR. Remember, IQR is the sides of your box subtracted. So 17 minus 12 for A would give me 5, right? And B, 15 minus 10 would also give me 5. So here, my ranges and my IQRs are both the same, which means that the variability for these events will be the same because the range and the IQR is the same. Right. Questions on this one? All right, number 3. Hopefully once it loads. All right, so for 3, we have a group B and group A. We want to know which statements best compare, and we want to pick 2. So I'll give you guys a second to find this one and let me know when you're ready. Okay, so this question says, based on examining the plots visually, which statement best compares these two groups? So we want to select two that apply. So based off of these answer choices, it looks like I'm going to be asked about variability and range. So let's look at the range and variability for both of these. Which group has a larger range? Hopefully you can look at these and be able to tell without actually having to do any number work. Group A should have a bigger range, right? Because it's much longer, which means that it's going to have a bigger range. So Group A, the range in attendance for Group A is greater than the range in attendance for Group B. And because Group A has a larger range, what does that say about its variability? So since Group A has a larger range, which one of these two groups would have greater variability? A, perfect. So Group A has more variability, and the range in attendance for Group A is going to be bigger than Group B. Does anyone have questions on this one, or are we okay to move on? All right, next question. So next question, we have store A and store B, and we want to know which store is more likely to have greater variability in the number of customers. So between store A and store B, hopefully with all the examples that we've been doing so far, you can tell right off of the bat which one has more variability. So just based off of looking at these, which one do you guys think has more variability? It would be store A. Store A because the range is much bigger. So store A, because its range and IQR are greater than the range and IQR for store B. Perfect. All right. Number 5. So number 5, we have video game X and video game Y. We want to know what is the interquartile range of the scores of video game X players divided by the interquartile range of the scores of video game Y. So this question is definitely different because we've never had a question ask us to do division, but I mean, it shouldn't be too bad, right? So what we want to do is take video game X, the IQR, and divide it by video game Y, the IQR. So if I look at video game X up here, this far side of my box is at 300, and the far side of my other end of the box is 150. So if I do 300 minus 150, what would be my IQR of video game X? 300 minus 150. It should be 150, right? 300 minus 150. 150. So let's figure out what is the IQR of video game Y. It looks like for video game Y, I'm subtracting 250 and 200, the edges of my box. So 250 minus 200 would give me 50. All right, so the next step would be just to divide it. So 150 divided by 50, which would give me 3. So the division of these IQRs would be 3, like Chelsea said earlier. All right. Questions on this one, or we good? Number 6. 6 wants to know what is the range of this data set. Remember, to find your range, you take your farthest 2 dots and subtract the numbers. So this would be 18 and 8. So 18 minus 8 would give me 10. Perfect. So the range for this data set would be 10. Very nice. Next one. So this one is a little bit different. We want to know what's the interquartile range of this data set, different box plot. So remember, we take the far sides of our boxes and we subtract them. So 17 minus 10. 17 minus 10 would give me 7. Thank you, Chelsea. So 17 minus 10 would give me 7. On to number 8. So for number 8, I have 2 groups. And based on the dot plots, we want to know which statement best compares these 2 groups. And we are selecting 2 that apply. So looking through these answer choices, it looks like I am asked about range and variability. So when I look at group B, what would be my range for group B? Looks like this goes from 18 to 8. So what would be my range for group B? Should be 10, right? 18 minus 8 gives me 10. And if I look at my range for group A goes from 20 to 10. So what would be my range for group A if it's going from 20 to 10? 20 minus 10 would give me 10. Perfect. Awesome. So the range for both of these, we had 10, right? So the range would be the same for both of these groups because they both had 10. And 10 is the same number, so range is the same. Now, let's look at variability. So since the range is the same, we need to look and see if the IQRs are different or the same. For group B, my IQR goes from 15 to 10. So 15 minus 10 is 5. So IQR for group B is 5. And for group A, it goes from 17 to 12. So if I subtract 17 minus 12, I also get 5. So since my IQRs and my ranges for both group B and group A are the same, that means that the variability in both groups is also the same. So the range and the variability for both groups are the same. All right, questions, or are we okay to go to the next one? Alrighty. So next one is another group B, group A question. This time we are asked to select 3 that apply. We want to know which statements best compare the 2 groups. And when I read through the answer choices, I'm asked about median, range, and variability. So let's start with median. I feel like that's an easy one. When I look at the line that goes through the inside of my boxes, are my medians for both of these groups the same, or are they going to be different? Michael says that they're the same. Chelsea, Dawson, what do you guys think? Dawson also says that they're the same. So does Chelsea. I agree, right? They do line up and both of them are above 15. So the median for both groups will be the same. Let's look at the range. So if I look at the range for both of these, both of the dots also start above the same numbers, which means that the range for both of these should also be the same, right? They're both starting at 10 and they both end at 20. So the range for both groups in attendance will be the same. And now, last but not least, let's look at variability. So their ranges were the same, but let's take a closer look at the boxes. Is one box wider than the other? Yes. Which box is wider than the other box? B. So that means that group B is going to have more variability than group A. So median's the same, range is the same, variability for group B is bigger. Perfect. All right. Next one, we have Team B and Team A this time. And we want to examine the plots visually and determine which statement best compares these two teams. We're selecting two that apply. All right. So we're picking two that apply, and the answer choices give me different choices for range and variability. So those are the two that I am looking at. Based off of just looking at them, Dawson says that B has a longer line. Perfect. So since B has a longer line, what does that tell you about its range? Is the range going to be bigger or smaller than Team A? It is going to be bigger. Yes, exactly. So since Team B has a longer line, meaning the starting and ending point are more farther apart, the range will be bigger for Team B. And since the range is bigger for Team B, what does that tell you about the variability? The range is bigger for Team B. Which team should have more variability? Not the same. With variability, remember that tells us which team has a bigger spread of numbers or a larger spread. So since Team B has a wider range, that means that Team B should have more variability. So there's more variability in the ages for Team B than there is for Team A because the range is wider. So range for Team B is bigger, and then more variability for Team B. All right, are we okay to go on to the next one? Perfect. All right. Number 11. So we have Team A and Team B. We want to know which statement best compares the kickball teams. And the question is asking us about variation, right? It says which one is more varied, pretty much. So when we look at these box plots, which do you think has a greater variation, Team A or Team B? Or do you think they are the same? Remember, to determine variation with box plots, you want to first look at the range, then look at the IQR. Michael says, well, he thinks they're the same. Chelsea, I'll go back in just a second. Jocelyn also says they're the same. I agree with both of you. They are the same. And if you look, the ranges for both go from 21 to 29. So the ranges are the same. And the IQRs are also the same. This has 22 to 25, which is 3, right? If I do my subtraction. And 26 to 23 is also 3 if I do my subtraction, which means that they would be the same. Perfect. Okay, number 12. So we have a box plot here, and we're asked what is the range of this data set. So remember, range, you're taking the two ends, your two dots on your box plot, and you're subtracting those numbers. So what would be my range here? Michael says 13. Dawson, what do you think? So what would be the range for this question on 12 with this box plot? Remember that range is taking your dots, taking the numbers where your dots are and just subtracting them. So 13, perfect, yep. If I take this dot, which is at 21, and subtract it from this dot, which is at 8, 21 minus 8 will give me 13, perfect. Ready? Next one. So for 13, we're given this box plot here, and we want to know what is the median. So what would be the median here? Median should be 13 as well, right? Median is the line that's inside of your box, and this line is above 13. So median would be 13. Perfect. 14. 14, we have concert A and concert B. We want to know which statement best compares these two concerts. Dawson, what's up? It won't be that bad, I promise. So we are looking at these two box plots, and we just want to know which one is more varied, right? So to determine variation with box plots, we need to first look at the range, then look at the IQR. So if I look at the range for these two box plots, this concert A goes from 10 to 20, and concert B goes from 10 to 20. So my range is the same, right? So now I need to look at the actual box itself. So if I look at the box of A and compare it to the box of B, is one wider than the other? Chelsea says B is wider. I agree, right? B is longer than A, which means that B is more varied. So Dawson, was this problem as intense as you thought it was? Awesome, perfect. All right, and then last one. 15. Ooh, a nice easy one to finish things off with. We want to know what's the median of the data set. So looking at this box plot, what would be our median here? So based off the dot plot, not dot plot, sorry, box plot, what would be our median? It would be 12, yes. Because this line inside my box is above 12, which means that my median is 12. Perfect, awesome. And then you guys are good to submit once you have that done. That didn't take long at all for it being a checkpoint.